From a cracked sidewalk to the world's biggest stages, how did Jamal Roberts go from playing for loose change to inspiring millions across the globe? This isn't just another music success story, it's the journey of a man who turned street corners into stepping stones to worldwide fame. And trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end. In a story that reads like the opening chapter of a modern-day fairy tale, Jamal Roberts' early life was anything but glamorous. Born and raised in a modest, working-class neighborhood, Roberts grew up surrounded by the steady hum of hard labor and the quiet resilience of people simply trying to make ends meet. His father juggled a patchwork of odd jobs: mechanic's work one day, delivery driver the next, while his mother sold vegetables at the local market to ensure her children could attend school and never go hungry. It was a household where luxuries were scarce, but love and perseverance were abundant. From a young age, Jamal found himself drawn to music, often humming improvised melodies while helping his mother carry produce or waiting for his father to return home from yet another long shift. But it wasn't until a cousin's birthday party that he first understood the transformative power of music. With only a handful of family members gathered in a small living room, Jamal nervously stepped forward to sing. As his voice filled the air, the chatter stopped and all eyes turned to him. In that moment, a flicker of purpose ignited, a recognition that his voice could command attention, stir emotion, and create connection. This was no mere pastime. It was an escape, a refuge, and perhaps even then the faint outline of a destiny. But at the time, such dreams seemed impossibly far away, hidden behind the grind of daily survival. And yet, as we often find in the stories of extraordinary talents, it was precisely this humble, challenging beginning that would lay the foundation for a journey no one in that small community could have predicted. It was a simple, almost forgettable moment in the eyes of most, but for Jamal Roberts, it marked the quiet turning point that would set his life's trajectory. At 9 years old, Jamal's world expanded dramatically when his mother returned from the local flea market carrying what, to anyone else, was just a battered, second-hand guitar. Its strings were rusted, the body was scarred with scratches, and the tuning was hopelessly off. Yet to Jamal, it wasn't just an instrument, it was a portal to possibility. Without formal lessons, without access to polished learning materials, he set out to teach himself, guided only by the radio in their living room and an unwavering determination. Every evening, long after his schoolwork was done, he would sit on the front steps of their modest home, plucking awkwardly at the strings, enduring the sting in his fingers as calluses began to form. What began as a few clumsy chords slowly transformed into melodies of his own creation. Simple songs that reflected his surroundings, his family, even the stray animals that wandered near their doorstep. That guitar became far more than wood and wire. It was his confidant, his diary, and in many ways the first tangible symbol of a dream that no one around him had dared to imagine for themselves. As neighbors passed by, they began to notice the boy with the guitar, the one who seemed lost in another world when he played. Little did anyone know that those early, unpolished tunes, played under the dim light of a street lamp, were laying the foundation for a voice and a presence that would someday captivate audiences across the globe. In the hands of a determined child, that worn-out guitar transformed from a forgotten flea market relic into the most important gift he would ever receive, one that would fuel years of practice, passion, and persistence. By the time Jamal Roberts was a teenager, the small front steps of his home had become too quiet for his growing ambition, and the cracked sidewalks of the city became his first real stage. It began innocently enough. Just a young man, his old guitar slung over his shoulder, testing his courage by performing in public. At first, passers-by would glance his way out of curiosity, maybe toss a few coins into the open guitar case at his feet. But as the weeks passed, Jamal's presence became a fixture on certain street corners, especially near the busy market district where the air was thick with the scent of grilled food and the chatter of shoppers. He learned quickly that performing in the open wasn't just about playing music, it was about commanding attention in a place where distractions were everywhere. Jamal didn't simply sing. He poured himself into every lyric, his voice rising above the hum of engines, the shuffle of feet, and the occasional shout from a vendor. On good days, a small crowd would form, drawn in by his soulful delivery, their faces softening as they forgot their errands for a moment. Sometimes a tourist would pull out a phone to record, other times a child would sway to the rhythm while their parents smiled knowingly. The earnings were unpredictable. Some days he'd make enough for a hot meal, other days barely enough for a bus fare home, but Jamal never measured success in coins alone. His reward was the connection, those rare moments when a stranger's expression told him they truly felt the song. Every performance, no matter how small the audience, was treated as though it were his one shot to prove himself. And though the street was unforgiving, cold in the winter, sweltering in the summer, and indifferent to failure, it became the place where Jamal sharpened his voice, tested his courage, and built the resilience that would one day carry him far beyond those weathered street corners. It was a sunny afternoon much like any other, with Jamal Roberts standing at his usual spot near the corner cafe, strumming the familiar chords of a classic soul ballad. His voice floated over the noise of the street, warm and rich, carrying a weight of emotion that seemed out of place among the honking cars and hurried footsteps. Unbeknownst to him, a tourist visiting the city had stopped a few feet away, drawn in by that very voice. They lingered for a few verses, swaying subtly before pulling out their phone to record. The moment was brief, but what came next would be anything but ordinary. That evening, the tourist uploaded the video to Instagram and TikTok with the caption, "Found this guy singing on the street. How is he not famous yet?" Within hours, the post began to gain traction. By morning, it had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of shares, and comment sections flooded with praise, astonishment, and pleas for someone to get this man a record deal. Jamal woke up to a phone buzzing non-stop, notifications lighting up his screen. Interview requests from local TV, messages from influencers wanting to collaborate, and most shockingly, emails from multiple record labels. Overnight, his life had shifted. The man who had once fought to be heard over the hum of the city now had the world listening. People started recognizing him on the street, some asking for selfies, others just wanting to shake his hand and tell him how much his performance had touched them. News outlets picked up the story, dubbing him the voice that broke the internet, while music blogs speculated about his future. For Jamal, it was surreal. Just 24 hours earlier, he'd been another street performer hoping for a few tips, and now, doors he had only dreamed of were swinging wide open. The viral video wasn't just a lucky break. It was the spark that lit the fuse of a career about to explode. In the weeks following his viral explosion, Jamal Roberts found himself navigating a whirlwind of opportunities that would have once seemed impossible. Among the flood of messages and calls, one stood out: a personal email from the founder of a respected independent record label known for discovering raw, authentic talent. The label offered not just a contract, but also full creative freedom, something rare in the music industry. For Jamal, who had always guarded his artistry fiercely, this was a dream scenario. Within days, he was on a plane to Los Angeles for his very first professional recording session. Walking into the studio was like stepping into another world: gleaming equipment, walls lined with platinum records, and a production team waiting for him with open arms. At first, he felt the weight of the moment: headphones that cost more than his guitar, a microphone so sensitive it caught the sound of his breath. But as soon as the track began to play, the nerves dissolved. He closed his eyes and sang with the same passion he had on the streets, pouring years of struggle and hope into every note. The producers exchanged glances, nodding silently, recognizing the rare gift in front of them. When his debut single dropped online, it wasn't just the fans from the viral video who tuned in. It was a global audience now curious about this street performer turned recording artist. The song shot up streaming charts, landing in playlists alongside established names he had idolized for years. Radio stations began spinning it, and within weeks he was invited to perform on live TV. For Jamal, it wasn't just about the numbers, it was about validation. Every late night playing to strangers, every moment of doubt, and every whispered, "You'll never make it," had led to this. His first big break had arrived, and he was determined to make sure it wouldn't be his last. While Jamal Roberts' debut single was a breakout success, the weeks and months that followed would test him in ways he never expected. The music industry, as he quickly learned, is not just about talent. It's about navigating an unrelenting cycle of deadlines, expectations, and public scrutiny. Suddenly, his life was ruled by back-to-back recording sessions, endless meetings with marketing teams, and promotional tours that left him barely sleeping. The label, though supportive, pushed for follow-up tracks that could match or surpass the viral magic of his debut. Creative differences began to surface. Producers suggested trend-driven sounds and lyrical themes that clashed with Jamal's authentic style. Meanwhile, critics emerged, dismissing him as a one-hit wonder who had stumbled into fame by accident. The pressure was suffocating, and the weight of constant comparison to established stars began to gnaw at his confidence. Jamal also faced the challenge of transitioning from performing in casual, raw settings to creating polished studio recordings, something that didn't always capture the same emotional punch he delivered live. On top of it all, social media, the very platform that had catapulted him to stardom, became a double-edged sword. While many fans continued to cheer him on, Others critiqued everything from his clothing to his vocal delivery. In quieter moments, Jamal admitted to close